Hello everyone. In the context of Operation Sindoor, today's Express article contained an explainer about air defense systems which can be extremely important for our prelims examination. So let's start with the basic question. Why do we need air defense systems? Because in modern warfare, threats don't just come from the ground, they come from the sky as well. So you have seen footage of how fighter jets, drones, cruise missiles are used in warfare, and if we don't stop them before they hit the target, the damage will be irreversible. So, what is it that you have to understand here when you're talking about air defense systems? We have to protect our critical assets before damage happens. So, just like we lock our doors to prevent theft from happening, countries deploy these air defense systems to detect, track, and destroy the incoming aerial threats before they strike. So let us understand in this lecture how these systems actually work. So you have to understand how these systems work. They work in layers. Firstly, we have to understand that purpose of these systems is to give us an early warning. So they will have some radars. These radar systems detect anything that is suspicious. Let's say, for example, there is an incoming drone or a missile. So this is your first alert using radars. This is the first component of an air defense system. Then you have tracking system. This is just like our mind. They will have sensors and they track its speed, altitude, and direction. If some suspicious object is there, they'll have to decide, right, whether it is a bird or is it a missile, and they will need that system to decide very quickly. So that is a second component. Then you have a third component meant for neutralization. Finally, it launches an interceptor missile. An anti-aircraft gun will be put on it, or there can be a drone to kill the threat mid-air itself. This is where our S-400 comes into the picture. Okay, so we had this Operation Sindoor, which we already discussed, and during Pakistan's aerial attacks on our western front, India's air defense did not let a single major target hit us. So we will now discuss how Israel's Harop loitering munitions actually helped us in this scenario. Let's try to understand this from basics. So let's say you have a drone and this is like a flying robot that doesn't come back after it reaches its mission. It flies towards a target, crashes into it, and explodes on impact. And this is how we can use the word kamikaze. Kamikaze, it's a word taken from the World War era where Japanese pilots used to crash their planes into enemy ships. So a kamikaze drone is a suicide drone. It's like a flying bomb that has a brain. Okay. So this Harrow loitering munition is like a kamikaze drone. It flies over a target area, scans for any enemy radars or surface to air missiles, and then dives directly into the threat like a guided missile. It's like a smart, patient, and deadly weapon that we can have circling overhead until it finds its prey. So, this is extremely important for India because wars today are not fought only with tanks and infantry. You need to dominate airspace. This is the case that you have seen in case of Israel when they were fighting Hamas, and your defense should be ready. So, this air defense systems are what allow us a space to breathe safely during a time of war. If I have to sum up, air defense is all about, safeguarding our airspace in such a way that we see, track, and attack anything that threatens our sovereignty. So this can also be used in strategic offensive targeting using this Harop drones. So this Harop drones have the capacity to almost search for 6 hours and attack the target. That's why they're very powerful. What are the other types of air defense you have? Firstly, you have the anti-aircraft artillery, also called AAA. So this is the oldest form. Guns shoot down aircraft and things like drones, but these are now used mostly in close range last resort defense only. These are not the most advanced. These are in fact the oldest. Then you have missile based systems where they use guided missiles to shoot down the threats. So these can operate in short, medium, as well as long range. And if you have to take examples of this, you have Akash, S400, Spider, Barak, etc. But after the first attack, it is Harup, which is the most important air defense system that we have, because it can search up to 6 hours and uses electro-optical sensors to attack the targets. So they were taking out all the surface to air missiles of the enemies out, which made us stronger. So this layered architecture where we have multiple systems, and the fact that we were not only using an imported system like Barak or S400, but also indigenous, shows us the strength that we have today. How do we use this same information for our GS3 mains internal security? So I'll be telling you some lines that you can use in your answers. The first one is that Operation Sindoor can be a testimony to the fact that the era of silent endurance is over for us. Strikes like Sindoor must be a part of our wider strategy combining diplomacy, deterrence, and credible defense infrastructure. Now let us see how we can use this information to write a good mains answer. I'm giving you a sample question here that can be asked in science and technology. Discuss the significance of advanced air systems or air defense systems in India's national security design. How do they shape modern warfare? This can be a 150 word question, 10 marks. So the key words that you have to focus on is discuss and how. So in the first part, you need to have the ability to use certain keywords that will exactly capture the purpose that they are solving. So the key word that I'm talking about here is the presence of a multi-layered defense architecture. We spoke about how they can track and ultimately destroy the target. So you need to capture that entire idea through a keyword or a key phrase, and that key phrase here that you need to use in your introduction is the word of or the phrase of multi-layered defense architecture. Otherwise, you will end up using many more words which will otherwise be captured in this single phrase. Don't do that. And once you mention this multi-layered defense architecture in the introduction, the examiner will understand clearly that the value that you have added. And you have to substantiate it with some examples. Here you can give the example of Harup. Now, the second part of the question is about how they are focusing on process. How means they are expecting you to show them the process. So when they say they shape the warfare, you have to clearly show a contrast between before and after. Your answer should visually present this differentiation. So when you're writing these answers, your answer must show the earlier state. That is what was lacking in the previous setup. For example, vulnerability, delayed response, the conventional systems were slow. And after this uh, advanced air defense mechanisms came into the picture, what was the intervention? So with AAD, you have layered systems, automation, enhanced deterrence, faster interception. All the points that we discussed should be visible here. So before and after picture should be very clear when you are writing the second part of the answer. This is where a lot of people make mistake. When they write answers, they just write about modern warfare, which is not even the focus. They're asking the link between advanced air defense before and after. That is the reason why you have to focus on the process. How means the structure of the question should clearly communicate the before and after contrast, and therefore the significance. You have to connect it back to the first part. Okay, so that's how you have to structure a mains answer. So that's it for now. I hope you understood the intent of this video. Thank you.